Hi, so this is the second part of our video where we look at the way that files and icons are displayed when you navigate down to an individual folder in Collaborate Online. And just to recap, I'm navigated down from my top level project folder through drawing distribution subfolder to third party. I'm in a folder called for approval. Incidentally, in this left hand navigation bar, at the moment you need a mouse with a left or right scroll function to navigate left or right. If your mouse doesn't have that, then the further information about your subfolders is displayed here, so you can use this to navigate to further subfolders if you wish. We've looked at most of these icons, now we're just going to cover the remaining features on this particular folder. I'm going to start in top right. We had a quick look, we showed that you could watch an entire folder here, but as you can see with these options you can sort the folders by name, date or title, and we can sort the documents about created or updated. We also have an option here to create a new folder. I'll stress again that these options are only visible if you have the permission to do that function. So it's kind of highly likely that unless you're a system administrator, you won't be able to see this new folder button. Again, system administrators can move folders, and again, system administrators could create a template from this folder. If they've created a nice folder structure, perhaps something like we have seen down here, they might want to use that template for a folder structure for different projects, and that's the template function down here. A slightly scary one, delete the folder in there. It will ask you for your password if you take that option. What we're going to go on to here is looking at this checkbox, or these individual checkboxes. I can check here against individual files, or I can click at the top here and it will select every file in the folder. I'll just pick a couple of these files. You don't have to pick them in any sequence, and I'm going to look at what we call this actions drop down. Now these are functions basically to manage and manipulate your files and the location of the files. Move a file does exactly what it says. You can move a file from this folder to another folder. I'm going to take this move here. I'm going to move it from my for approval folder, and I'll just move it one level down into my in build folder. What the system will do then is it will look at my destination folder, which is the in build folder, and it will consider whether any of these documents are a potential match or an incremented version for those documents that are in the appropriate subfolder. And here you can see it's come up with quite a couple that are an obvious match here. There's one that is exactly the same name, so I'm going to call that one a match. But a 90% match here, I'm going to say no, that's not a match, so do not match that one. And then at this point I could choose to move those files. But as we're almost effectively reissuing these files from this current folder into the new folder, we have the option here to carry out what we call a notification function. So I could start to notify my users that I've moved files from one folder to another folder. Okay, so it's a bit like uploading files as new, except you're moving them from one folder to another folder. In this case, I won't take any notification options. I'll just choose to move the files. There's a little bit of animation on the screen that kind of indicates that these files have moved, these files have been pushed down in position. But you'll see that the three files that we were looking at a moment ago have moved, and if we go down to our in build folder, they will now have been migrated, if you like, or navigated down into this folder. Okay, let's go back to our for approval folder, and we can look at another feature. I'm just going to take this second file here, and what I'm going to do with that one is I'm going to copy it. Now the idea of the two copies, what we call a static copy here and a dynamic copy, is a static copy will do just as it suggests. I'm going to pick the copy option here. I'm going to move it down to M&E in this case. It's again allowing the smart add matching feature to kick in and say there's already a document in there with the same name. Is this an incremented version? I'll say yes, and it will copy a static copy of that file across to the new destination. Effectively, a current version, the version that's displayed on the system, will be copied across. So this would be typically used if you're placing a purchase order, or if you're in some sort of discussions with someone and you're saying here is a copy of the document that our discussions are based on. That's a static copy feature used for orders or tenders or that type of activity. Once again, if I take perhaps another couple or three items here, and I'm going to go for what we call a dynamic copy. Now the idea of a dynamic copy is that when the master document, the original document that's in this file is incremented, is increased in version number, then the destination or the dynamic copy will also be incremented. So the example here would be, this would be a working drawing that you would perhaps give to a subcontractor, so that as the master copy increments and evolves as the project evolves, so does the copy that the subcontractor is working from. So dynamic copy, very popular and useful feature, and again I'm going to move that. In this case I'll move it across to, let's say, our approved section in terms of working, just to pick a different folder. Once again, I have the options here to go into advanced details and use the notify function. Again, it's as if we're reissuing these documents from one folder to another. I'll not bother putting a notification in here, but I'll just say link the files, and the system will create the dynamic links accordingly. Just one further detail here, you'll notice that now these files that are dynamic link have the little arrow above the file icons there. So you've got a little extra icon, and if you click on this icon it will expand the view there, so it shows you that this file is linked across to the PDF folder. If I go into the PDF folder and look at the same feature, you can see that this then tells me that this file comes from the for approval folder, and you can expand all of the contents of your folders here with this option. So this will show you all of the links in your folder if you have any, and this indeed is a further option which shows you more information about the documents that you have in any particular folder view. If I navigate back to my for approval folder, once again I can switch this feature on and off to show me any dynamic links that are in the folder, and again this one to show me more detail about any particular folder that we have. So just navigated to a different folder, and we're going to continue to look at these items that we have in what we call the actions drop down. Next one in the list is the download. It's a very popular feature when used in the way that I've done it here. Take the top option here to select all the files in a folder, then click on download. This gives the user a zipped up copy of all of the files in that particular folder, and the point being that it's the latest version of all of the files. So for what I'd call end users, or people who are need access to all of the documents and want a copy on their local device, this feature is very useful. They will then download the file as a zip file. It will be downloaded once again in accordance with the browser settings to be located wherever the browser is set to put the file, and then the user can expand that zip and have the copy of the local items. I'll just close that for a second and carry on looking down the drop down list. So after download we've got an interesting function called share. Now typically this might be done with just one file, or it can be done with any number of them, but the point of share is that I might wish to share a copy of a large file with someone who's not a user of our system, not a member of our Collaborate Online account. This option lets me type in the email address of our new contact, so I could simply enter his email address in here, so essentially I can complete this form with the user's email address. I can use the blind carbon copy function to further users if I wish. I can include my own message if I wish, and finally I can set this link to expire in any period of time. So I've got 15 minutes as the default, 1 hour, 6 hours. You might give a user 48 hours. This is purely for security. One point about this feature is that of course anybody using the system can share your content with anyone else in the world effectively, and therefore this feature is only available kind of on request to individual users. So you can disable this feature for any users who you don't want to have the right to share your content with anyone else in the world. Click on share one file and an email will be sent to the required email address, and that email will contain a link to download that file. So it's a useful feature. The user doesn't even have to log into Collaborate Online. They can simply click on the link to download that particular file. Pressing on after the share, we've got the ability to add tags. So we mentioned that we have tags before. you can create any number of tags in your system. I've got a tag here called urgent. I'm going to tag just the one file with the urgent tag in this case. System administrators can create tags. Once again, they can create as many tags as you wish. Next action there, we could remove the tags. As you can imagine, you might have tagged a file by accident or inappropriately. You can remove the tag and add a different tag if you wish. You can change document statuses. So I'm going to just select here all of our files. At the moment the status is kind of blank, it's a pending status. If I go into change status here, I can pick from the list of statuses that I have set up in my system. I'm going to mark all of these as pending, and the document status has been changed for pending for each of those documents. Next option we have here is document type. Again, document types are your definition. So we have a default set of documents in here as drawings or specifications or reports. I might decide that all of these files really relate to guidelines, so I'm going to change the type of document in this case to guidelines for each of these particular files. So that's the last option that you have in there. Finally, we have a create RFI option. That's going to be covered in a separate video, so I won't cover it here. And again, a scary one, you've got a bulk delete function here. Again, used with caution, but once again, most users will find that they don't have permission to do that. So hopefully that completes a very brief run through each of the icons against your file display in Collaborate Online, and now the Actions drop-down menu. Thank you very much.